we are going to be doing a panel discussion. Oh, and it looks like, hey, yes, all of my guys are here. So obviously joining me on panel, Sue Plumb Takamoto needs no introduction as she is just presented. She is the director of Nozomi Project and Ishinomaki. Just joining us in our panel, I have with me, I believe you can see to your bottom left screen, Franz Lawrence, who is the founder of Holax Sendai, which is up until this year was Japan's only food delivery service, Sendai-based food delivery service here. And he started, interestingly enough, when his wife was pregnant and had difficulty getting items delivered. The story behind the starting of Holax Sendai was actually really interesting. And they delivered our lunch today. So kudos to them. Thank you, friends, for joining us.
Hey, thanks, Clifford. Thanks for having me on the show or on the panel.
Thank you. We also have Dominic Jones, who is professor of English at Sendai Seiyo Gakuin College. And he has been a resident of Sendai for over 20 years. He is a former entrepreneur who's established a few businesses here, and he sold his businesses to become a professor. He is also a TEDx speaker. I believe his TEDx talk was on some of the affinities between science and martial arts, which was really exciting to watch as well. So Dom, welcome to the panel.
Great, Clifford. Wonderful introduction. It's really nice to be here, and I'm looking forward to an exciting talk.
Very good. Thank you guys for joining as I'm here in studio. I wanted to really just kind of throw out the question to all of you. We already heard, Sue, you spoke a little bit about why you came to Tohoku. I wanted to throw it out to Franz as well as Dom, like what brought you to Sendai, specifically to Tohoku?
Well, when I was
we'll start with Franz, yeah.
Okay, when I was graduating from university, I was looking for places to travel and work. And my cousin, who had lived in Japan for about 10 years, had recommended Japan, going to Japan and teaching English. So he told me to apply through a particular company, and that company placed me in Sendai. That was about 7 years ago, and I'm still here, so you should know.
Very cool. How about you, Dom?
Well, that sounded like a great recommendation to come to Sendai. I came to Sendai a while ago now, yeah, about 1999. So what's that, 21 years ago. And the reason I came here, my wife is Japanese, and we lived and met in England and married in England. And she said, well, let's go back to Japan. And I said, well, should we go back to your hometown? And she said, no, but I really recommend let's go to Sendai because that's a much better place to live. And 21 years into the future, I still agree with that. I agree with my wife. It's a great place to live.
Very cool. So you guys are here, and obviously, so you're not in Sendai, but you're in Ishinomaki, right? And you started in Sendai. So what were your impressions when you first came to Japan and you lived in Sendai?
We love Sendai and didn't want to leave. And I read somewhere it's considered the second best city in Japan to live in. Have you guys heard that?
No, I haven't. No.
Yeah.
No. I'm not, but I'm stealing that. I'm stealing that.
This was years ago, but Fukuoka was first and then Sendai was second. But there's something about Sendai that you can be rural in 10 minutes going in any direction, which I love. But then you can be in this city that I rarely got lost, and that was a miracle. But it felt like a city, and there's just something about that international flavor that I love.
Cool, very cool. Thank you. And yeah, I love it. I'm still here after 14 years. Hopefully I'll get to where Dom is, where I'm over here for 20 years. So I wanted to jump in. You said, obviously, Dom, you started business before, so you don't have a business now, you're a professor, but I'd still be interested in knowing why did you guys all start businesses in Tohoku? And I'll throw it out to Sue first.
Why did I start a business?
Yeah.
Well, so we started out of need for sure, because we moved here and realized that that women needed something. But I don't think we started thinking we're going to form this business that will be around 8 years later. That has evolved. But I think realizing that you can be anywhere here in Tohoku. You don't even have to be in downtown Sendai to make it.
Right.
And I think sadness and things around the world. So it's been a good experience for us to even learn that.
Yeah, it's good. For myself, I was working as an English teacher, and at the time, those types of English jobs were contract-based, 1 year or 2 year, perhaps 3 years into the future. And I love Sendai and was wanting to, or had a young family at the time, and I thought, well, we want to set down roots here, and if I can be my own boss, and this is a way to do it. And that was pitched to me by a friend of mine called Graham, who I went into business with. And that made sense to me. So that was the major, again, need. It was a kind of a need to control the future.
Life design, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. And not to be at the whim of a hiring company or, you know, I wanted to have some kind of control over my future. That was the plan.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So Franz, tell us a little bit about your story. Why did you start a business? I thought it was interesting when I interviewed you last year.
Why did I start Holax?
Yeah.
So about 2.5, almost 3 years ago, when my wife was pregnant, we you know, when the lady is pregnant, she's huge. She's not so confident in herself. She doesn't really want to go outside. She doesn't want her friends to see her. So my wife didn't really want to go outside and do the grocery shopping and all that stuff. So we used to search like for delivery services, but there weren't any services that would offer same-day delivery or quick delivery. It was always once a week or once a month or something like that. So I was like, this doesn't make much sense. So then I asked her, do you want to start it together? And she said, okay, let's do it. So that's how we got started with it. And then it really started out with the supermarkets from that idea. But then I realized that in Sendai at the time, almost all restaurants had takeout, but none of them delivered, or very few. Only like pizza restaurants or sushi restaurants delivered, but they all had takeout, but they didn't deliver. So I said, maybe that's where I could bridge the gap. So that's how we got into the restaurant delivery service.
Cool. So you guys, and now Holax has been in existence, what, for 3-4 years now?
No, 2.5 years, I'd say, yeah.
Okay, very cool. So it's a good segue into things. We talked about last year when you and I sat down, Franz, how Holax was up to this point the only food delivery service in Sendai, right?
Yeah.
Now we have a new interesting situation called COVID, right?
Yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of like Uber come up. So I'd be interested to know, not just a question for you, how has this situation with COVID, how has that affected your business or changed the way that you think about things? That's question one. What lessons can you take away from COVID? And I know, Dom, you've had a business before, but as a professor, I would be asking you in that capacity. How has COVID affected you? What lessons have you learned? So let me go ahead, since it's a good segue. I'll start with Franz again, and then we'll work around.
So obviously with delivery and COVID, it just grew exponentially and like in no time. So, and what happened was we had COVID, but we also had, as you mentioned, Uber Eats coming into town at the same time. So it was about, I was always happy that Uber Eats was coming to Sendai because it would give me free publicity. You know, because Sendai, the people in Sendai weren't aware of delivery before, apart from just me or Holax putting in the groundwork and getting it out there. We don't have that capital to make it make it known on such a large scale. Yeah. So when they came, it just COVID plus Uber Eats being here, it just brought so much recognition to us that it blew up, and we didn't have enough people. I was running around trying to find workers. So because you have a standard to maintain in the quality of service. Right. And so that would lead me to what I've learned the most from this time is that you just always have to be prepared. you always have to be thinking ahead, down the line, you know, in case something happens. Are you prepared? Are you ready to make this decision? So that's the biggest thing I've learned in this pandemic.
Very cool. Very cool. So I guess this pandemic has kind of helped lift the profile of Holax Sendai. Was that fair to say?
For sure, it has helped us a lot, and it has also allowed us to branch into things, because the restaurant delivery service is getting saturated now. You know, all these people coming in, all these foreign companies are coming in. But the good thing that I'm always confident that I can do things that these companies can never do and will never do. So now we're partnering with we're partnering with an organic farmer to get things to customers, you know, healthy things to the customers. Now we have contracts with the supermarkets. So we're already going ahead of the rest. These companies are still doing the restaurant deliveries. We are doing restaurant deliveries, but we're pushing the game further with other things. So to keep
finding ways to differentiate yourself from your competition.
To differentiate ourselves. So that's why I say I will never be angry that these big companies come to Sendai. It's more power to us, because once people start comparing, there shouldn't be any comparison, because we actually care about the people of Sendai.
Franz, I want you to come to Ishinomaki. You need to bring it up here.
We've actually been in talks with Sendai City and Miyagi Ken to bring some projects to areas like that. So maybe we'll be there soon. So
you let me know.
Sounds good. COVID has been such an interesting event. You know, I'm in the educational business, and we went from, you know, regular classroom teaching, and virtually overnight, we had to change curriculums. We had to get used to technology, how to teach. Our students went from not having an email address to suddenly being able to interact with learning management systems. So there was a huge kind of very, very quick and steep learning curve. There's been a lot of advantages to that. So now our students they do have their email addresses, they're comfortable interacting with software. I have some students watching here now, you know, they're in a lesson and they can, you know, but they're watching on the big screen so they can see what we're doing. So that ability to bring technology into the classroom was always going to happen, but COVID just pushed it forwards 15 years. So it's exciting times to live in.
Right. And I guess, Sue, that leaves with you. Like, how has the business in Ishinomaki been affected by COVID? What have you learned?
We have been greatly affected. I think about 75% of our sales are outside of Japan. And all of a sudden, shipping shut down for shipping to the US and to most of the countries that were where most of our customers live. And so we had to regroup and look for new options. And I think what I love is when just humans, when we hit hard things, you find creative ways to work around it. And we're still doing that, but we've also had people collaborate with us again. And one of the things we're doing is we're packaging here, and then we're using DHL, which is a kind of a third-party shipper, to send boxes to the US. And then we have friends there who are taking it and sending it out by regular US shipping. And we've done that with Australia as well. We have some friends in Singapore who are getting packages for us and helping us send it. So our sales have definitely dropped this year. There's no doubt about it for all of these reasons. But I was on a podcast with an innovator in Hong Kong, and he said, every single one of you in any kind of business, you need to stop and think, what are going to be the needs because of COVID? And we kind of came back to our workshop and said, okay, people aren't going to need jewelry right now. They're going to need ways to stay clean. And so we got right on it, and we've created this clean key that has our Nozomi piece on it, the pottery piece, and you can use it when you're in public, so you don't have to touch the ATM machine screens or the elevators. And so we would have never thought of that if this hadn't come and we didn't need to find something like that. So I've really loved how innovation, again, necessity can create innovation. So.
Right. Yeah. A lot of things will change. A lot of things have already begun to change. And I see how you guys are already, you were all innovators in your space, and you already begin to innovate and kind of set yourselves apart from just to survive, honestly, and to help not just grow, but flourish in this environment. Speaking of it, obviously, we don't know, we're still in the middle of COVID. We don't know exactly how long things are going to remain in the state that they are. But kind of moving, slightly pivoting, my question would be, what sort of potential or what sort of exciting possibilities do you see in the near future or the distant future for Sendai, for Tohoku, as foreigners in Japan, really? So let me throw that out. Dominic, if you would be so willing to speak about that.
Sendai has been in the news again. Tohoku University was rated the #1 university. And we have such a higher education legacy here and footprint here with many, many different universities. And what that means is we continue to output, for want of a better word, new graduates. And these graduates need to find jobs. And the types of jobs that they were going to, some of them have shut down. So there really is that need. That need is getting more and more apparent, that innovators have to step into that space and either change existing companies or start up new companies to provide jobs for these, this new workforce, which is now very literate in technology. And that wasn't maybe the case a few years ago. So we have a literate workforce that wants jobs. And so I think innovators can step into that space, definitely.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I agree. Franz, how about you? What sort of opportunities are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, to piggyback off what Dom said, like, I'm looking for people who can create softwares now or different platforms to help us make our orders to make the orders easier or more accessible. So as Dom said, we need those people who are technology literate. And so that space in Sendai, I mean, I don't want to say Japan, but in Sendai, the tech space isn't that obvious. It's not in our face, right? It's not that crowded. So if we can get these university graduates in these positions and help grow Sendai in that way, I think that would be very beneficial to the city and to Tohoku itself in the future.
Yeah, I hearing about that, it reminds me a little bit, I'm not going to steal his thunder, but our following speaker actually does a lot towards helping to help the next generation to become technologically literate. So hopefully he'll speak a little bit about that. Sue, how about you? What are some exciting developments that you see, or what do you envision for the future of Sendai, Tohoku, Japan as a foreigner?
Yeah, I think something that I love about living in Tohoku is because of the disaster in 2011, people from around the country who had kind of a heart of pioneering volunteerism, wanting to help, moved up here. And in our city of Ishinomaki, we continue to meet some of the coolest Japanese people who said, I moved here because of the disaster and I wanted to make a difference. And our general sense of Japanese people is it isn't a normal thing to say, I'm going to go volunteer to someplace outside of my group. It's just not in the culture generally, but all of those people who have moved up here. And so I feel like this is like the neatest place to live right now, because that disaster happened, people responded, and those people are living here and saying, we want to keep progressing and helping Sendai, helping Ishinomaki, helping these places go the next step. And I think it's a super exciting place to live right now. And And I love how so many places have been rebuilt. You know, Onagawa, the town over from us, it's beautiful now. It's been rebuilt. People have poured into these places to make them better and different. And I really, yeah. Go ahead. Clifford.
Sorry, I interrupted. What were you were saying? I was gonna hop on because I actually, you know, I live here in Miyagi, and I've had the opportunity to go, and I haven't visited Nozomi Project, but I have visited its sister project, which is called Megumi Project, and Megumi Project does much the same thing, but they upcycle old kimonos, and so I got a chance to go to Onagawa and see quite a bit of the reconstruction that's been going on there. So I thought it was really, really neat to kind of see those things. So yeah, cool.
Just to move on, to talk on that, bounce off Sue's ideas. Not only did the region get lots of volunteers from around Japan and around the world to come and help us during that time, it's also given us a real resilience for the people of Tohoku, that when I talk to people about COVID, and if we try to compare it to the disasters of 2011, they're not even on the same page. It's like, so we're very confident, as in, we can deal with COVID. It's no big deal. I mean, really, it's. I mean, it is a big deal for some people, but on the scale of things, it's like it hasn't moved the needle of stress.
Right.
And I think that's something which Tohoku has in its favor. Definitely. And the other thing is, all these disasters or things that happen, I mean, we know that business is about change. Business owners have to react to change. My business was a sports bar to start with, the first sports bar in Tohoku. And then we had the World Cup come in. And then after that, we had to pivot. So we became a nightclub. And then we had to pivot again and became a wedding venue and a wedding party venue and a nightclub. So they were always moving through these different cycles. And it's really important if you're thinking about starting a business, to be very open to the fact that you might start off going here in sports bar and end up as a wedding party venue somewhere later on. So that's important.
Be flexible.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You have to be fluid, yeah.
Definitely fluid. And another thing, just about what Franz was saying about community and Holax being able to do things because they are local to the community. When the disasters hit in 2011, obviously the nightclub business completely shut down. But we were a safe space, so we had families come and live in the nightclub. They lived there, they cooked there, they ate there. So that cooperation between the business and the community is really important, to have that kind of social responsibility, which these smaller startups, Nozomi Project and Holax and what we did as well, they can do all that. It's very important to think about.
You talk about kind of building relationships with the community, and just jumping on that. I'd be interested to know, because you all have been involved in some sort of business. And I remember last year's conference, quite a few of the speakers talked about some of the prerequisites that you needed to have as a foreigner beginning a business in Japan. And I know, Sue, you didn't set out to start a business, but I'd be interested to know, in the beginning stages of your entrepreneurial endeavor, your businesses, what sorts of maybe challenges did you encounter, maybe as a foreigner in Japan, building a business, starting a business in a country that is not your own? I'd be interested to hear from your own experiences what it was like. So I guess I'll throw that out to Sue first, since I mentioned your name.
Sure. Yeah, like you said, I didn't start out planning a business, but I feel like the biggest thing I keep learning is working together. You can go so much further than trying to do something on your own. And again, my language is not everywhere I wish it was, but I have a Japanese coworker who's got the Japanese, and And I have just, that's what I have found really helpful in doing a business, is trying to find people who can do what you can't do well to work with you. And that could be, that doesn't even have to be on your staff, but, you know, people who can help interpret what the laws are. Or I think for us with COVID, one thing I didn't mention was the government offered some great grants to small businesses. But it was really hard to figure out. The government didn't even know what they were doing in some cases, you know. It was all new to them. It was all new to us. And our sister organization in Onagawa that you mentioned, they applied and didn't do it right and gave up, thinking, well, we can't get this funding. Well, our manager, Yuko, she spent weekends researching it and calling it and talking to people and figured it out. So we got some funding. And then she helped our sister organization, Nozomi Project, figure it out, and has since helped others. But I think that when we work together, we can do so much more. And you can come to Tohoku and start a business as long as you don't think I'm going to do it by myself. But if you have the philosophy of, hey, I'm going to find a team who can do what I can't do, and we'll do it together, I think anybody can make it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. It's a really good point.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. My business is, a nightclub business, and I didn't know anything about nightclubs, the management of them. I didn't know about music. I didn't know about events. So it was really important that, there's three main areas in the business. You have the technical knowledge of whatever you're doing. You have the management knowledge of how to manage a business and deal with people. And then you have the financial knowledge, how to work with the regulations, and also how to get loans and work. And it's very rare that one person can do all those things. So you need to make sure that you have key staff or key advisors or organizations you can use who can do that. And Sendai does have and Tohoku has a wealth of experience of people who've started businesses and can help you on the legal side, the financial side, the advice side. And so, you're not alone out there. You might start off alone, but there is a lot of support here, and we're happy to help.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very cool. Franz, how about yourself?
Yeah, well, for me, the hardest challenge initially was just teaching people what on-demand delivery was at the time, because, as I said, it was a very new concept here, and people just couldn't grasp it. We can have our meals, or we could have anything delivered to us within an hour of placing it. It just seemed so foreign to them, that idea. And then the pricing, because the pricing wasn't expensive, so they're like, is this real? Is it true? Is it a scam? Like people had that fear. So it took us a while to build up that trust in the community. So I think that was our biggest challenge. And then Dom just mentioned something very, very important, where he talked about the three things, your technical knowledge, your managerial knowledge, and as well as your financial responsibilities as a business owner. And it's very difficult to do all three, but at the beginning, I had to do all three. And then occasionally, when you really need help, especially with the taxes, it's fortunate that Sendai has they have so many resources that you can go to, so many free resources. Let me point that out. That the city offers, that people you can go, you can get some accounting advice, you can get so many different advices from a place called the name slipping me, is in the Iron Bill. I don't know if you guys know it.
AER building.
Yeah, the AER building, yeah. Assista, okay. It's on the 7th floor. That place offers so many things that people don't know about. I remember when I was incorporating my company, because I had been going to Assista, because I had been consulting with them in various aspects. When I was incorporating the company, I got like a 40,000, 50,000 yen discount from the city, just because you were doing things like that. So if you don't know what to do, there are always people here in Sendai who can guide you and show you where you need to go to get the information you need. So that was big.
I'm really glad to hear you guys say that. I guess the theme that I'm picking up from all three of you is just how supportive Sendai and Tohoku has been in really helping you guys start or even run your own businesses. Is that I'm not mistaken in kind of saying that?
No.
I guess a good follow-up question would be, for those who are wanting to start a business in Japan or start a business in Sendai, like what recommendations would you have to future entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs? Because, and the reason why I say that is like, okay, Sendai in particular is a college town, okay? It has like 80,000 students. And a lot of them, when they become shakaijin or members of society, they're gonna move off to different places in Japan or outside. But like if you were making a pitch to a student, like stay in Tohoku, like start a business, or to a foreign entrepreneur who's coming, what advice would you give? Franz.
You want to go with me? why I would recommend Sendai is that in Sendai you can be a big fish in a small pond really quickly. You can grow to heights so quickly if you put in the work. So that's what I would tell them. You know, people recognize your efforts if you're doing it and if you're doing it well. So I would say you have that opportunity to grow and grow quickly in Sendai. Obviously in a bigger city it will take some time, but once you get there, you get there. But Sendai is an excellent place for you to start a business and grow that word quickly without much resources.
Very cool. How about you, Sue?
Yeah, I would go back to the spirit of cooperation that I think is here in Tohoku. And again, back to 9 years ago, because so many people came from around the world and said, we're going to help. And like, I still go places and I'll meet, an old lady when I'm walking my dog, and she'll say, oh, did you know that people came and did a barbecue and gave us food or cleaned out our home? And so I feel like the people of Tohoku, even though Tohoku traditionally was known as being very reserved and cold, I think there's been a shift in these 10 years, and there's a sense of we want to work together. So I think it's a great place to come and do something new, like what Franz is doing. He found an open market and open homes because it's something new. And so I think it's an ideal place to start a business.
Yeah. How about you, Dom?
Well, I agree with all those things. And also Sendai and Tohoku is such a beautiful place to live in Japan. And obviously you mentioned the second best city in Japan. And many people I know who've traveled away from Sendai to different cities have usually told me, oh, I really wish I could come back to Sendai. It was really nice there. It's a very easy place to live. You have the mountains and the sea. You have the universities there. You have good education, K-12 education, even international school education. And it's all there. And you're not overwhelmed. You're not overwhelmed by 30 million people in Tokyo. But at the same time, it's 1.1 million in Sendai and more in Tohoku. So you still have a significant market there. So I think the quality of life is really important. And the way of work is more and more people are having businesses which work away from either in a home or in smaller spaces. So why not enjoy your business and make a business in a part of the world which has good clean air and it's a nice place to live.
Right. It is definitely a wonderful place to live. I've lived here for so long. Dom, obviously you can agree. Franz and Sue, do you guys, I don't have any other questions, but do you guys have any like parting comments that you would like to say to those who are watching live our conference? I guess, Sue, your square is actually in yellow. Is there anything, parting thoughts that you would want to leave us with?
Yeah, I was just thinking about those of you who are watching and maybe you've had a dream and you're like, I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is real. And what I shared in my talk that helped me the most was do the right next thing. So if you're sitting there and you're thinking, I'm really interested in this line of business, then decide what's the right next thing to figure out if this is where you want to go, and write that email, look up that website, Go online and do whatever the right next thing is. And that has helped me so much when I feel overwhelmed. Like, do I really want to take that jump? Well, don't think of it as a jump. Think of it as one step, and do that step, and it will get you a lot closer.
Very cool. Cool. Thank you for sharing. Franz.
For me, I would say, to sum it up, is there's so many opportunities here in Sendai and in Tohoku. And as Dom said, there are 1.1 million people here. So it's not a small city, but it's not a large city. It's just enough. As the Japanese would say, chodoi. There's so many opportunities. Sendai is ripe. And they're looking for foreigners to come here and help them grow the city. And as such, we foreigners here can help and guide you, the ones that are here already. We can help and guide you and lead you to success, hopefully. And hopefully just add value to this beautiful city of Sendai.
Before Dom speaks, could you speak a little bit, like you spoke a little bit last year, kind of your greater vision, Franz, when you talk about transforming Tohoku together? Could you speak a little bit about that and what your endeavor is in that regard?
Well, transforming Tohoku together was formed because I realized that there were so many foreigners here in Sendai that were doing so many unique things. And I wanted to bring the community together and then inspire people who want to do more than just teach in Sendai. I mean, if you want to come to Japan and teach, nothing is wrong with that. You know, somebody's a teacher, but I find that most foreigners come here to teach, but they don't want to teach. And so meeting these various foreigners here, I guess Sue, I would invite Sue and I would invite Don. Then I didn't know them at the time, but hearing people's stories like these, you know, it inspires others to, hey, let me come out of my box. Let me come out of my shell. Let me try. And as Sue said, if you see an opportunity, do the right next thing. You know, what's the next step? So that was what I was trying to get done with transforming Tohoku together. And as I said, it's a beautiful place and it's a ripe city. It's ready for the taking, guys.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. Dom, what any parting thoughts?
A couple, really. The first thing is some businesses, the advantage of Sendai is you can attract people who come to the big cities of Japan, like Osaka or Tokyo or Kyoto. And you can say, well, please come to Sendai, please come to Tohoku. And they say, why? And we can say, well, we've got, Matsushima is the third most beautiful place in Japan to come to. We're ranked the second best city in Japan. Tohoku was the Let's Go guide. It was Let's Go, the region, one of the most popular regions in the world to visit. So there's lots. We're starting to get some international recognition of why Sendai and Tohoku is so special. That would be what I would say about Sendai. And as an entrepreneur, as Willie Banks said earlier this morning, there is no success without failure. And that's the key thing. And, fail is sometimes known as first attempt in learning. So remember, you're going to be knocked down and there's going to be mistakes and you'll go in different directions and blind corners. But at the end of the day, if you keep getting up and keep persevering, then you will succeed, and we're here to help you do that.
Cool. Well, guys, thanks so much for sharing. I couldn't have sold Sendai and Tohoku any better myself. I'm confident. I'm very happy to meet people like you, and it's for reasons like this that I'm excited to be a part of IGNITE Sendai, really being a part of an organization that's really trying to attract more foreign entrepreneurs, more foreigners to this region for the many reasons that my guests on this panel have shared with us today. So I want to thank you again, Sue, Franz, and Dom, for sharing the screen and taking time out of your schedules to talk about Tohoku. Thanks, guys, very much.
Thank you, Clifford.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And some jazz hands.